Story 1. I do not drink largely because I cannot stand the taste of alcohol, but also because alcoholism runs in my family and is to blame for serious generational trauma. Story 2. It stops my mind from running all the time. It helps with anxiety and depression but comes with its own negative trade-offs. It is poison, but in 17 years, I have not found a better alternative. It is available at almost every street corner. I was sober for 6 months and it was the same as antidepressants, no highs, just average and lows. At least with alcohol, I feel okay for once in a while. Story 3. 2 driving under the influence offenses. Lost jobs, damaged my self-esteem, and took years off my parents' lives. If I ever drink again, I will die. I couldn't stand being such a worthless person anymore. Story 4. Not a drinker. I have had alcohol and I am a sad drunk. Seeing my parents drink for years helped me decide to turn away from it. Story 5. I drank socially for years. Now that I have improved my health and nutrition and am focusing on healthy longevity, it no longer fits with my lifestyle. Story 6. I like the taste. I do not get drunk, but I enjoy having a drink sometimes. Whiskey, soju, mezcal, they are tasty. Story 7. As a former heavy drinker, I quit completely because my wife drinks heavily and is always a mess. Therefore, I no longer drink. Our son is 10, so I have been drug and alcohol-free for 10 years. Story 8. I do not drink it because I heard it is addictive. I am sure I would become an alcoholic if I gave it a chance. It is also known for destroying the body and mind. I do not want to be taken advantage of while drunk. Story 9. I do love a good beer, but the empty calories were piling up and I was probably 40 pounds overweight. I've gone from about 20 beers a week to maybe 1. I'm down 35 pounds and feeling much better. My knees don't hurt anymore. I don't feel sluggish or lazy. I also had a chat with a friend who quit drinking. She read a book about our relationship with alcohol and how addiction to it is cleverly disguised for many people as a hobby. That really got me thinking, as I am in the beer business and witness it every day. Story 10. I love good cocktails and have an extensive home bar. It is a creative outlet, something you can share, and it helps build relationships with people. I do not have any dependency or emotional attachment to it. I think drinking to feel better is a big mistake. I never drink when I am angry or sad because it does not make sense for me. I love alcohol personally. Story 11. 1. I am underage. 2. Addiction and alcoholism run on both sides of my family. 3. I have seen firsthand what addiction and alcoholism can do to someone. Story 12. Why did I drink? Because it reliably put me into a state of unself-consciousness and eventually blissful oblivion. I didn't take things to heart, felt I could be spontaneous, and did not care what people thought of me. I didn't even mind hangovers because they numbed me out, which was preferable to feeling anxious and constantly second-guessing myself and everything I and everyone else was saying and thinking. On the road to becoming inebriated, it was like the feeling of lighting a fuse that would soon lead to explosive, cathartic, beautiful fireworks. I stopped drinking because I finally realized my desire to be in control of my drinking was not as strong as my desire to drink. Despite my best and strongest intentions, no matter what I tried, for almost 15 years, starting in my early to mid-teens, I thought it was more or less normal not to remember the night before, because that had been the case since I started drinking at least half the time. But sometimes I would wake up with regrets or find journal entries from the night before, in large incoherent scribbles, expressing regrets and whining that I should stop. In my last year of drinking, I usually would vomit when I got home, but I did not think it was a big deal. Until one day I woke up to a reality I could not deny. This is alcoholism. You are literally an alcoholic. The first year was difficult. It was like mourning the death of a sibling or a devastating breakup with a partner you have been with a long time in a close but tumultuous relationship. Someone you felt knew you better than anyone else. It is wild to remember that now, but the 12-step program was very helpful because there were a lot of people I liked and respected who were somehow able to deal with life without needing to escape into oblivion, were able to be themselves without self-consciousness or a buffer, and were doing really well in life. It has been 25 years. I have regretted drinking many times. I have never regretted stopping drinking. Story 13. I was only a beer a week guy, and even stopping that made me feel like I was having fewer emotional lows. I also lost a little bit of weight. It has been 8 months since I had a drink, and I do not feel like going back. Story 14. I do not like the taste of any alcohol. I get very bloated and uncomfortable long before I feel any positive effects. Alcohol is also harmful to your physical and mental health. Story 15. It tastes unpleasant to me. Edit to add. I have tried different brands and mixed drinks. There is just something about it that I cannot stand. I have always been a picky eater, so that is probably why. Story 16. I live a sort of paradox. I am a very social person, but I have social anxiety and a slight fear of crowds. I drink alcohol because it reduces my inhibitions. That being said, I hate being hungover, so I am very moderate about my drinking and often drink water or soda between beers. I also do not drink and drive nor take rides with people who are drunk, something that, according to my friends, I am very stubborn about. I also enjoy the taste of some alcoholic beverages, except wine. I do not like wine. Story 17. I am thinking about quitting forever, finally. I have reduced my use to less than anyone I know, but I still feel guilty every time I drink. The depression and hangover combination is just not worth it. Story 18. I do not drink because I do not think it is always a good way to relax. You can have a good time without alcohol. Story 19. I don't really like how it makes me feel. I used to like it a bit more, but even then I never got very drunk. As I got older, I liked it less. This might be because I'm on a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor that you're not supposed to drink with, but I'm not sure. I'll have one or two sometimes, but I'd rather take a gummy to be honest. I used to be self-conscious about it, but I'm mostly over that. Not drinking saves me money, calories, and time feeling unwell on my day off. Story 20. Do not drink. During my younger years, I witnessed the damaging effects it had on a brother of mine, even seeing him hospitalized at times. Absolutely horrible experience. Story 21. I am aware of the consequences. I love my body too much. Drinking alcohol makes me feel like I am disrespecting something sacred. Story 22. I don't for many reasons. I take medicine where I cannot drink. I do not like hangovers. I do not like bars. I do not like drunk people. I do not like myself when I am drunk. I had to quit years ago because I used to drink too much daily. Tastes terrible. It is expensive. If I have money for alcohol, it can go towards my child instead. It ruins your organs. I think that is all. Story 23. I do not enjoy the taste or the feeling it gives me. I also know how incredibly damaging it can be and do not want to partake in something like that. Story 24. I used to prefer smoking a small amount of cannabis and not feel like complete garbage the next day, although I would have a drink or two a couple of times per year. Now I have stage 3 breast cancer and am going through chemotherapy, so I am not trying to add any extra poison to my body. Story 25. I quit alcohol when I realized that there is actually no benefit to consuming it. 0. Short-lived positive effects maybe, but no actual benefits. The benefits come when you quit. Story 26. It makes me feel terrible, and it is harmful to your body in every way. It is like drinking poison and then forcing your body to filter it out. Story 27. I exclusively drink socially because I enjoy the feeling of a light buzz. However, I never drink if I am driving and am often the only one not drinking among my friends, and that is okay. Story 28. I am glad that I do not like the taste or the effects of alcohol. If I did like it, I am sure I would already be dead because I am prone to addictions. Story 29. Never liked the taste, the way it makes me feel, or the hangovers. I have seen people do many unwise things while intoxicated as well. Story 30. I don't like the taste. It either tastes like medicine or rubbing alcohol to me. No matter how diluted it is, I'll stick to cannabis to relax. Story 31. I have an autoimmune illness and drank alcohol from age 18 to 29. I learned I certainly do not need it, and it is not worth risking my health. Story 32. I like cool cocktails, both making them and tasting them. I enjoy pairing wine with food and noticing how it enhances the flavor. Story 33. Do not drink because I am allergic. I am very thankful because if I could drink, I would probably have died in a ditch somewhere 15 years ago. Story 34. I don't drink alcohol and never will. This is my personal belief, so you don't have to agree with it, but I believe that the soul drives the body, and drinking alcohol would taint it and make it harder for my soul to function. When it is going so well for me, the least I can do is not inconvenience it. I also had a family member pass away while she was a teenager because she couldn't receive the proper care she needed since her father ran away with all their money to spend on alcohol. I know he is the real problem, but I still blame alcohol for tempting him. Story 35. I joined the army in 2006, right after high school. Not even a year after graduation, I was deployed to Iraq. I turned 19 during pre-mobilization and 20 while in Iraq. I had a rough childhood, experiencing physical, mental, and emotional abuse, and was extremely poor, going to bed hungry more times than I can count. Once I got home from deployment, I hit the ground running, so to speak, drinking every day, all day. I would wake up and drink, go to work, drink on my lunch break, then drink again once I got off work. I did this for about 5 years straight. One night, my older brother, who had been an alcoholic far longer and worse than I was, and I decided to drive 2 hours on a Saturday night to a friend's party after drinking all day. Around 4 a.m., we decided to drive home. He kept telling me not to pass out and to make sure he stayed awake. I passed out and woke up with us driving about 90 miles per hour on the other side of the road. I woke him up, and he corrected the vehicle and continued driving. I passed out again and woke up going almost 100 miles per hour. I woke him up just in time to avoid hitting a telephone pole head-on. He steered us out of the way. If I had been 1 second too late, we would be dead. I also lost my job that same morning for coming in drunk and cussing out a coworker. So I moved to Texas with my grandpa and continued drinking and partying heavily until my grandpa gave me the option to stop drinking or be homeless. I stopped drinking as much. I still drank and partied secretly, but not as badly as before. As the years went on, I drank and partied less and less. Now, I barely drink, only having a few beers socially on rare occasions. I understand how slippery the slope can be, so I avoid drinking because I know the more I drink, the harder it will be to resist. Story 36. Highly carcinogenic. Hepatitis, gastroesophageal reflux disease, severe vitamin deficiencies, esophageal varices, delirium tremens, Wernicke's encephalopathy, heart disease, stroke, pancreatitis, neuropathy, dementia, osteoporosis, erectile dysfunction, weight gain, sleep disorders, depression. Am I missing anything? Story 37. Alcohol is poison to the body, but if you are able to handle it in small doses moderately, you will probably be fine. Story 38. My father was an alcoholic, and my best friend is an alcoholic who is currently sober. My entire life, I have witnessed what alcohol can do to a person. I drank when I was younger, and I occasionally have one drink. I simply enjoy other beverages more. Story 39. I do not trust myself around it. Addiction runs in my family, so I do not want to risk becoming an alcoholic. My life is difficult enough as it is. Thank you. Story 40. I hated when things were moved around for no reason, and I could not remember what I did with them. No more fugue states, no more acid reflux, no more concern about overtaxing my pancreas and kidneys. Story 41. I drink for the taste. I do not drink more than 1 or 2 at a time, and I do not drink every day. It is purely because I enjoy what I am drinking. Whether it is a local craft brew, a great scotch, or a caipirinha, I genuinely enjoy the flavor. Story 42. I drink socially about twice a year, so barely at all. I am pretty solitary and see little point in drinking alone. I also do not love the taste of most alcoholic drinks. I have a sweet tooth and like flavor. I can enjoy a nice fruit cider or a cocktail on rare occasions, but there are many drinks out there, and it would take a lot of experimentation to find ones I would drink consistently. Most drinks I like disguise the alcohol, so I might as well stick to squash and soda and avoid all the downsides of alcohol. Story 43. I am taking omeprazole and I am concerned about any interactions. I have a hiatal hernia, so until that is corrected, I will stay off alcohol. Whenever I miss alcohol, I think of the bad hangovers I used to get, especially a terrible headache that would not go away with anything other than rest. Story 44. I have a rule. I do not drink unless I can get very drunk. Consequently, I only drink 3 to 4 times a year, but on those occasions, I binge drink. The other consequence is that I feel very unwell for a couple of days afterward, so those times are gradually decreasing as I get older. Story 45. The quality is great in Belgium. It is like asking why I eat chocolate. When I am in Southeast Asia, I do not drink alcohol because the quality just suffers. Story 46. It can be fun sometimes. Although I rarely enjoy the taste of any alcohol and never drink to the point of getting sick, I always maintain a careful buzz. Every once in a while, when it is free, I go a few steps further for the fun of it. Story 47. I am alcohol intolerant, but in worst-case scenarios, I drink to make myself intentionally sick to get out of situations I do not want to be in. Story 48. As I got older, I started drinking less. It just zaps my energy completely. I went to a music festival and drank the first night. I was super tired the whole night and had to sit a lot because my legs were tired from jumping up and down. The second night, I probably only had 1 beer and was able to withstand the whole night without getting fatigued. Story 49. Not old enough yet, unfortunately. Plus, with my mental health issues, the risk of addiction is quite high. Story 50. I rarely drink because I honestly do not like the taste. Also, my father was killed by a drunk driver when I was young, and my grandfather drank enough for the next 3 generations. Story 51. I drink primarily because I have an anxiety disorder, and moderate alcohol consumption helps me cope with certain environments. I also sometimes have a drink after a full day because it helps me feel relaxed. Story 52. 1 is too many, and 1,000 is never enough. Do not ask me how I know. I ended up seeing my Dr. Dre. Now I just smoke weed every day. Story 53. I don't want to. I have a rare liver disease that makes alcohol very harmful to my liver. I don't think it is worth the risk. Granted, I did drink very little when I was a teenager, but I would rather not take the risk of liver failure or experiencing similar pain. Now, Story 54. Alcohol tastes unpleasant, and I do not enjoy being intoxicated enough to convince myself that it tastes good. Story 55. My wife and I enjoyed a cocktail or a glass of wine, rarely 2 with dinner. She recently received a diagnosis and medication and was told not to drink. I stopped drinking with her. Neither of us had a problem with drinking or quitting. I do not know if it is a coincidence, but my cholesterol just tested much lower than when I was drinking. I have been experimenting with tasty non-alcoholic beverages. Story 56. I like the taste. Trying creative cocktails, unusual spirits from around the world, unique craft beers, or different varieties of wine is fun. I enjoy playing with flavor combinations and making my own simple syrups. I appreciate the culture of the breweries in my city, as they often have fun events. On a hot summer day, there is nothing like enjoying an ice-cold beer or shandy outside. There is a crispness that is hard to achieve with other drinks. I do not get much of a buzz from alcohol, and I am not prone to addiction, so apart from the calories, I do not see any harm in drinking, at least for me. Unlike marijuana, it does not leave you smelling unpleasant or feeling bad in your mouth. Story 57. The worst decisions I have ever made were made while drunk. In the late 1990s through the early 2000s, I spent 9 months in a state jail after serving 8 years of probation because I stole from friends to go out drinking. That probation was revoked because I was arrested for public intoxication. Alcohol made me an idiot and changed much of what I thought my life would be. I still have a few drinks occasionally during events. I think the last drink I had was at the 2023 Super Bowl. I learned that we'd kept me home and out of trouble. Story 58. I do not anymore. I lost my gallbladder and was diagnosed with gastroesophageal reflux disease. The gastroesophageal reflux disease got a lot worse after the surgery, and I can no longer tolerate alcohol. Story 59. I can smell the cork from a wine bottle and become tipsy. My body cannot handle alcohol. One old-fashioned, and I am on the floor. Story 60. I drink rarely, usually when my wife and I go out for dinner, which is rare, maybe 4 times a year. I like cocktails, usually something dry, often with gin. Last week, I had a very nice sangria at our favorite shore restaurant. I enjoy the taste and a little buzz is pleasant. Outside of that, I do not usually drink. Not for any particular reason. I just do not bother to get beer or alcohol when I am out and about. Story 61. I will have a drink when I go out for a meal or socializing, maybe a few pints with friends, but I will never buy beers for the refrigerator. I can be an angry drunk. I would much prefer to smoke cannabis. Story 62. I have 2 children under 7, a dog, a puppy, and a cat. You can draw your own conclusion about whether I drink or not. Story 63. Smells unpleasant. Tastes unpleasant. Makes me feel unwell. Honestly, my brain cannot handle anything beyond its normal state of functioning. It barely tolerates travel and high temperatures. Additionally, I endured the chaos caused by intoxicated individuals for many years. Story 64. I have an unusual relationship with alcohol. It's medicinal. I don't drink it much for fun, maybe once a month. I worked with chemicals and poisoned myself over time. My teeth were dying and turning gray. I was advised to eat half a bar of chocolate and drink a shot of vodka per week. Over time, that saved my teeth and mostly cleaned out the chemicals. I'm not sure when it would work or not work, but it worked for me. Years later, I learned that the alcohol acted as a solvent, and the chocolate acted as a binder to carry it out of my body. At least that is how I think it worked. It was confirmed because I thought I was done with it after a few months, but then the gray came back, so I started again, this time for a year. That did the trick. Story 65. I do not like the taste. I get an instant hangover. If I have that amount of money to spend, it is better spent on food or other necessities or something I can enjoy in the long run. Story 66. I stopped drinking 4 years ago on my own. I am thinking about trying social drinking. Not because I miss alcohol, I do not, but because I hate being left out of every get-together. I just want to participate and enjoy 1 or 2 cold beers without finishing the 12-pack. Story 67. I drink occasionally when celebrating, but I am selective about what I drink. I do not really enjoy the taste of alcohol, so here is what I will drink. Piña Colada, light on the rum. Seagram's Escapes. Bardenura Moscato. Rosa Regale. St. James Velvet White. Jello Shots. Jungle Juice. Mimosas that are at least 75% juice. Bahama Mama. Apple cider liquor. Slimers, vodka, Sprite, and lime sherbet. I have only seen them at VisionCon. There was also the Vader Strangler, a name given by a random person at VisionCon to what was in his cup after adding bits of jungle juice, Slimers, Mojo, and nearly everything else found in the convention party rooms. I had a sip. What do all of these have in common? They are all sweet, and I can barely taste the alcohol, if at all. Story 68. I hate the taste. It is very bitter to me. What I can tolerate is a type of hard cider I found with 2.5% alcohol by volume. Pretty much all my family thinks I am weird, but that is just how I am. Story 69. 1. I do not like the way it tastes. 2. It makes my jaw shudder every time I drink it. 3. I do not like the feeling of not having complete control. 4. I have some health issues that are incompatible with alcohol, and it is not worth it to me. Story 70. I drink it because it feels good after a few drinks, and it slows my mind down so I can sleep. I have insomnia, and that's the only thing that will mostly consistently help me fall asleep. I don't drink it because it also makes me feel terrible after a while, and it is a major depressant. I alternate between these two because not sleeping is difficult, and having a constant hangover is difficult. Overall, life is challenging. We are all just living through difficult times. I am not jaded or cynical. Cheers, friends, wherever you are. Story 71. I drink alcohol for pain control a lot. Joints and tendons seem to work against my happiness. Alcohol is reasonably cheap, temporarily effective, and the dosage is easy to adjust. Trying to get my body to feel good and hurt less consumes a lot of my life. Yes, I have tried all the pills and loved the narcotics. Still, I take a lot of ibuprofen and acetaminophen daily just to function. Alcohol is limited to evenings. It's a choice, I guess, something from this bottle or something from that bottle. Relief still comes from a bottle. Story 72. I will have a scotch or whiskey with a cigar once or twice a month. I do not feel the need or desire to drink more frequently. Story 73. Don't drink anymore. I have been working as a bartender for over 10 years and have seen enough. I also quit smoking cigarettes after 20 years. Drinking only makes it harder. Story 74. I don't drink alcohol because it is just not worth it to me. It has virtually no upsides and many downsides. I prefer sodas, coffee, tea, milk, and water. If there is any mental health benefit, I can find it in many other things that are cheaper than alcohol. I will add, though, that I have had a screwdriver and really enjoyed the flavor. It felt like the perfect morning drink. Sweet to ease the morning but sharp to wake me up. Still, I don't drink it. Story 75. I will drink socially occasionally, which is not often. The biggest reasons are that I am often driving in such circumstances and that alcohol is very expensive. If I want to enjoy being not sober at home, I prefer cannabis. Story 76. I solemnly drink only once on the weekends when we go out to eat. I did not grow up around alcohol, so I do not understand the hype of drinking it all the time. Story 77. I do now, rarely and even more rarely to the degree where I feel anything because it tastes awesome. For a while, I only drank for the buzz on social occasions and preferred mixed drinks because alcohol in any other form was just gross to me. But one day, something changed, and I went on an epic flavor journey of evolving tastes from a small sip of watered-down whiskey. I have since amassed a small collection of various bottles of rum, Irish whiskey, Scotch, bourbon, and American whiskey, and I dip in periodically for a taste. I rarely even pour a shot's worth and just smell it and sip it neat to revel in all the flavors. I think the last time I got any sort of real buzz was about 8 months ago, and that was from a long series of tiny tastes from a rum collection. So I am not a drinker per the common use of the word, but I do legitimately enjoy it now for some reason and have it as a special treat from time to time, which is good because it is expensive and I have only ever finished 3 bottles in 3 years. Story 78. I enjoy the taste of mixed drinks. I sometimes get them virgin, but they do not have the same profile, so I ask for half alcohol or for the alcohol to be on the side so I can make 2 drinks out of it. I do not drink anything straight, but a mojito is very refreshing after doing yard work. I found a place near my work that sells soju boba cocktails, and they are divine. Story 79. Because I have essential tremor, it makes my hands not shake as badly. Unless I drink too much, then it gets worse. Then you have to drink more to cover the hands being worse. Story 80. I started drinking at 16 and stopped at 21. I had to have beer in the mornings just to start the day. My dad drank from the time he got up until he went to bed or passed out at night. I realized I was adopting his habits and did not want that, so I quit. As an adult, I have had a drink occasionally, but I think the last time was probably 15 to 20 years ago. I have numerous bottles of liquor in my apartment, but I use them for cooking and baking. Story 81. If you had my supervisor, you would probably have a drink when you get home too. That angry leader makes every employee miserable. Story 82. I'll be 6 years sober this year. I was a functioning alcoholic for over 15 years. I was literally hoping for death before getting sober. I was living to drink, that was it. I was such a terrible person inside and out. I knew that if I wanted to be happy in any way, I had to stop drinking. I absolutely hated who I was when I drank, and I know I can never go back. Story 83. I can't stand the taste of hard alcohol, but I like a few sweet drinks with low alcohol content, such as piña colada, rusty navel, frozen drinks, and margaritas. I have these very rarely at certain restaurants. I also very rarely drink half a glass of semi-dry wine, usually paired with or to enhance a special meal. For instance, I have champagne at weddings. I don't like beer except to cook with or pair with barbecue, such as Corona. My early experiences with alcohol made my muscles ache and burn, and I felt a burning sensation in my gastrointestinal tract, especially in my lower colon. It was an unpleasant sensation I never understood nor wanted to repeat, but it resolved years later. I also never got a buzz. In my early 30s, hanging out after work with colleagues, they had me try different hard drinks when I said I would not get drunk or hungover, which I never wanted to. I did not. I had an upset stomach and vomited when I went home, much to their surprise. Some bet I wouldn't. I appeared bright and early at work. I must have a fast metabolism. Dentists have to give multiple injections to keep the sight numb. Story 84. Sometimes I just want to unwind, but that was not always the case. As a young man, I would go out and party hard until I got a driving under the influence charge. One condition of my probation was group therapy. During that, the one thing the therapist expressed to me that I actually agreed with was that I am not an alcoholic or drug abuser like 99% of the individuals who go through the course. Instead, I am naturally an aggressive person who binge drinks. If I am around others while drinking, my aggressive nature makes me want to be the best, so I end up extremely overconsuming and making poor decisions. Either figure out how to handle your nature or stop drinking around others. Now, on rare occasions, I will grab a 6 or 12 pack, and when the family goes to bed, I hang out by myself drinking beer until it is gone, watching simple shows or working on a project. When it is gone, I go to sleep. Story 85. When I drink, all it does is give me a headache. I actually miss being able to catch a buzz and let go. Story 86. I used to drink because it felt great. I drank all day, every day for years. I am sober now because it nearly killed me. Story 87. Alcoholism runs in my family. Both my father's parents died from alcohol abuse, as did my mother's father and my father's brothers. I recently lost a sister to organ failure caused by alcoholism. Story 88. It was easier to drink in my home country. Now I have moved to the United States, and speaking English becomes much harder with every sip. Story 89. To socialize and go on small adventures, greet my friends, or sit and watch sporting events alone. Story 90. 22 years sober. For treatment centers and being homeless were not even enough for me. My unplanned son being born was my lifeline. Story 91. Because I made many poor decisions and experienced moments of regret when I was 18 to 22. I was a disrespectful and offensive drunk, which is not healthy. Story 92. I enjoy the taste. It is relaxing to slow down my brain. It helps me socialize, particularly with strangers, which is somewhat necessary if I want to find a girlfriend. Story 93. I hate how it makes me feel. He used to feel great. Now it just does not. It increases my anxiety, makes me feel sleepy, and gives me an unquenchable thirst. Story 94. I don't drink. I never cared for the taste of any alcoholic beverage, even though it was always present in our home growing up. Story 95. I am a volunteer firefighter in a very rural area. Operating fire apparatus requires zero tolerance for alcohol. Story 96. Meh. It's overrated. A couple of drinks with my friends or a nice glass with dinner is good. Or after a long hard day. But other than one or two, no, I'm good. It just is, I don't know, not appealing to drink. I might drink once a month, maybe at most 5 times a month. I like tea and coffee better. Story 97. It's the downtime for my brain and feelings, and sometimes it's the uptime for my feelings that aren't allowed to exist in real time. Alcohol lets me feel the emotions that I'm not normally allowed to. I'm not angry, violent, clingy, or crying. Just allowed to feel more deeply. I don't feel responsible for anything either. It's like having a drink says, I'm on my time off. So I relax, drink, read a book, cook some food, and watch television. Without it, I just feel responsible for something. Story 98. I do not drink and never will because the possibility of becoming addicted and ruining my life is not worth a single drink. Story 99. I do not like the taste. I am afraid I will become an alcoholic. I am afraid I will humiliate myself. I have no idea what kind of monster could be unleashed if I got drunk. Story 100. I just like coffee, alcohol, and red meat. I stick to beer and wine unless I am eating sushi, which has much less alcohol than hard liquors. I usually drink at night. I don't drink socially and for some reason don't seem to get hangovers. I didn't start drinking until I was 21 when I had my first beer. I honestly don't have many hobbies, don't socialize, don't game, watch TV, and have outgrown the family I grew up in. I have one other hobby that consumes most of my time, and that is being a perpetual student while I work full-time. I drink much less than I used to in my 20s, especially after getting married. I never had a driving under the influence incident or any problem keeping my job, as drinking was always an end-of-the-day activity. One reason to stay away from alcohol is that it can cause weight gain and is a risk factor for cancer. It can also change your personality and affect your nervous system over time, especially if you drink excessively. Hard liquor is best avoided. Drunkenness is a high risk for accidents, and social drinking can result in life-altering decisions. Story 101. To stop the demons in my head. A kid. I don't drink much. I do enjoy it, Scotch specifically. Do you think if alcohol was not around and someone tried to introduce it to the market that it would get approved? Are there any side effects? A few. Expand. Well, if you drink too much, you vomit all night and the next day. Some people become violent. Over time, it damages your liver and raises your blood pressure. Sounds like poison. It can be seen like that. Well, that's okay, as long as there aren't any flipper babies. There have been a few flipper babies. Story 102. I work in healthcare and regularly see the end stages of alcoholism. It is painful and distressing. I quit 2 years ago because I felt it was too much a part of my life. I wanted to stop it before I became one of those people whose lives revolve around drinking and who have destroyed every relationship around them. I see it often. The only person left is often a tired, elderly parent. Sometimes the best gift is being able to learn from the mistakes of others. Story 103. I like it for social activities, but it is not needed. I have hung out all night fueled by diet sodas and cheese sticks. These days, if I do not feel like getting drunk, I will just go to bed. Story 104. Growing up, I heard stories about violent drunks. Eddie trying to quit drinking was a bit of a plot point in Roger Rabbit. I guess it all just made its mark on younger me, and I inherited it now as a grown-up. As things are, I have a mental block that keeps me from drinking, to the point that if I checked a cupboard for something to drink, a shelf could be full of alcohol, and after checking behind the bottles, I would conclude there was nothing to drink in the whole house. The idea that the alcohol can be consumed doesn't even enter my mind. Story 105. I don't drink because I paid attention in drug abuse resistance education class when I was younger, and I have watched my uncles drink themselves to death. Story 106. I do not drink because I took a break and never returned. The benefits of sobriety continue to grow. Story 107. Just not my thing. I have never had a drop in my life. I know I would abuse it. It is best if I keep it that way. Story 108. It is not something that I think about drinking. Maybe once in a while I get an inkling of drinking beer, so I get a six-pack of something and finish that off in a couple of days. Then I probably will not drink alcohol again for a couple of years if I ever do again. I cannot even remember the last time I drank, to be honest. It has to be years. Story 109. I used to drink a lot of beer. I developed gout, and beer was causing me a lot of pain until the disease was diagnosed. I liked beer, but I like walking without pain better. Story 110. I really could go without drinking forever if I were asked not to drink again, but when I do take a drink, it is usually because I need to let loose on the dance floor. Other reasons why I drink are when I am stressed from work and need to forget about the day, or if I am in a situation that is not dancing but I still need to loosen up a bit. For example, next week when my parents meet my boyfriend for the first time, I will be drinking. Story 111. It used to be to control myself in the sense that it makes my brain slow down. Now, I drink it because I like the flavor and sometimes for the social aspect. Story 112. I am Muslim, so it is against my religion. I did it a few times and had the time of my life, but each time I feel so guilty. All I think about is dying in that state of being drunk and waking up in hell. That thought keeps me away from it. Tastes nasty too. Story 113. I really only drink when others invite me to do so. I also stick to the same drink regardless of the environment. I drink whiskey, preferably nice, but cheap is okay too. I normally don't have more than 2 to 3 drinks, depending on the surroundings. If it is just my partner and me at home with no children, I might get a little more relaxed sometimes. Story 114. Makes me tired, cranky, and irritable. I feel like a lesser version of myself. I hate feeling sick in the morning and then experiencing tiredness over the next few days. Had my teenager binge, and I have evolved to appreciate myself and others. Story 115. My mother passed away from liver cirrhosis. She was a heavy drinker. I had many passive-aggressive conversations with her through texts, calls, and in person. Doctors told me that if she drank again, she would die. She kept drinking regardless, and there was no chance she would survive the pain she was in. Do not wish that on anyone else. I used to drink, but I stopped many years ago, and I am blessed that I barely drink now. I think about drinking, but I do not want to become like my mother. I miss her deeply, but I know she would not want me to follow in her footsteps, so I will not. I want to live as long as I can. Story 116. I almost died a couple of years ago from alcoholism. Then I almost died from alcoholism again years later. I still want to drink despite the fact it almost killed me twice. This shows me I cannot trust myself. Story 117. I quit 3 years ago. I come from a long and distinguished line of individuals with alcohol use disorder. I decided to prioritize my brain and liver health, and I sleep much better now. Story 118. I drink because I am in a constant state of depression, anger, and stress. I have a lot of great family and friends who listen to me. My husband does too, but alcohol numbs all of that. I am currently on my 8th can of White Claw. Story 119. I quit 3.5 years ago because it was destroying my health and my marriage. If anyone is afraid to quit because being sober is not fun, it is just the opposite. Also, anyone who wants someone to talk to about it can contact me. My lighthearted answer is that I quit so that there would be some alcohol left for future generations. Story 120. My dad, when he was younger, said he used to pass out and vomit. Deoxyribonucleic acid usually runs in families. I have 2 very good reasons not to, so I do not feel like I must. Story 121. I stopped at the beginning of this year as a New Year's resolution. I don't need alcohol to enjoy a party, and when I did drink, the party was going too far. Story 122. Watching my ex ruin his entire life due to being a secret alcoholic turned me off alcohol. Since being single, I have had 2 glasses of wine, and I like it that way. Story 123. I have never consumed alcohol outside of communion, not for any particular moral or religious reason, but simply because it is unhealthy. Story 124. Drink to get drunk, not drink because it is unhealthy. I do not really like the flavor and do not enjoy the idea of harming my neurons just because I am bored or social drinking. Psilocybin mushrooms are much better than alcohol. It is not even a debate. Story 125. I just do not see the point of doing it anymore. I used to work in a brewery and a canning factory that filled a range of alcoholic drinks. I used to drink, but whether it was the familiarity of seeing it daily, I just went off it. It is not a taste thing, as I like the flavor of hops and malt, but I just look for a low or no alcohol version. Now I tend to drink alcohol-free wheat beers or, more recently, Feeksten's Now Peculiar. The original was my beer of choice in my student days. Story 126. I have never drunk alcohol before. I am in my 20s and attend a party school where everyone I know drinks. I do not have a specific reason other than the fact that I simply do not want to try it. Story 127. I drink because I am bored. Sometimes it helps me focus on a thought. Sometimes it helps me express what I really think without being concerned about perception. Story 128. Not much of a drinker, but have a shot or 2 before sleep every night. Sometimes it is too difficult to go to bed without wishing tomorrow will never come. Alcohol guides me to sweet dreams. I have some rules so I do not become a nightmare to my loved ones. No day drinking. No more than 100 milliliters at a time. Only drink at home or anywhere safe enough to sleep immediately. Story 129. I will drink casually, but for health reasons, I do not overindulge. Both in the short term and long term, alcohol has terrible side effects and consequences. Alcohol is rated as the worst drug or substance for impairing your mental state. If that is your goal, many other substances can achieve it without the terrible aftermath that alcohol can cause. Story 130. I do not drink because I am not interested. Plus, having a hangover or being inebriated would really mess me up. I have things to do in the morning. Story 131. I do not drink because it makes me feel disgusting. I already feel disgusting enough without adding to it. Story 132. I am in my 50s and used to drink mostly beer socially, but a six-pack can last me a month. I live in a legal state and have been smoking cannabis since I retired from the United States Air Force in 2013. It helps with my depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and provides pain relief for my 3 compressed discs and my knees. There are no morning hangovers or sour stomach the next day. I can get stoned and be completely sober in 4 hours. In contrast, when I was young and used to drink with my crew, I would wake up still intoxicated after 10 hours. Story 133. I don't because it just tastes gross. But when I do decide to take it, it's when I have really bad body aches. It helps numb that. Story 134. Do not drink alcohol. One reason is that my friend, who recently passed away from ovarian cancer, was told her alcohol intake likely contributed to the disease. Story 135. Aspartate aminotransferase levels are slightly elevated. Recently stopped drinking alcohol and started eating more healthily to return them to the normal range. Story 136. I used to drink because I was depressed and in constant pain, but now I only drink a few times a year, usually on a holiday with my extended family. It all starts with a shot in honor of those we have lost, including my dad, so I drink to that. I have pretty much stopped drinking now because I prefer cannabis for medical reasons and do not like mixing the two. I would rather be high than drunk because there is no hangover and I feel good instead of unwell. Story 137. I spent a good portion of my 20s highly intoxicated, to the point where I have trouble remembering most days from back then. I was not in a good place mentally, and since alcoholism runs in my family, I tend to stay away from it now. Mostly only the rare cider or a glass or 2 of wine. I am not a big drinker anymore. Story 138. Male, 40 years old. I quit drinking about 5 years ago, mostly because I tend to go all out with no breaks and drink until I am unconscious. With age, it takes longer to recover. 2 days of wild hangover are not worth 1 evening of fun. Story 139. My parents were daily drinkers. I wouldn't consider them alcoholics, but I definitely watched them use drinking to run away from their problems, their marriage and me, to name a couple. They got a divorce and don't talk to each other more than once every few years now, and I get a call from my dad anytime someone in the family dies. I also work out. I run. I lift weights. It just literally doesn't feel good. I don't feel good while I'm doing it, and I definitely don't feel good the next day. I had kids, and all of a sudden, I had to be up at 6 a.m. and be on point for these awesome kids. I had no interest in being hungover or even being drunk around them. I wanted to be a better person for them. That wasn't in the formula for many, many years. Even at 9 and 12 now, I still have very little desire to drink. I'll do it at social events and maybe holidays, but seriously, a friend comes over for Christmas and my friend, my oldest child, and I go running together. It hits better than booze anyway. It just feels like it costs too much. It's depleting. It dehydrates and washes away electrolytes. Costs my health, my money, my time, my relationships, and sometimes my mood. Just no thanks. Story 140. I feel a little better for a few hours, then feel worse for days. If I drink every evening, I do not pay the price until I finally stop. My body keeps a perfect accounting of the days I have drunk and makes me pay accordingly. My father never could quit, and it was miserable living with him. All things considered, I think it is better for everyone if I pass. Story 141. I was raised as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and while I have left the church, I am terrified of alcoholism. I sometimes struggle with self-control and have many mental health issues. I can definitely see myself using alcohol when depression takes over, and then it just spirals. I watched my aunt slowly drink herself to death when I was in high school, and I made up my mind then that I do not want that to be how I go out. Story 142. I do not drink. I grew up with an alcoholic, which turned me off alcohol. When I reached legal age, I was paying my way through university and could not stand to spend a cent of my hard-earned money on it. Now, I simply do not have a taste for it or a reason to start drinking. My partner enjoys craft beer maybe once a week, and I am fine with them drinking, but I do not. Story 143. Because I am under 21, I do not have any plans to drink. It has never seemed appealing to me. I have heard it burns going down your throat. I also do not want to waste my money or become an addict. Story 144. Mom was an alcoholic. I never drank enough to convince myself that I enjoyed it. I do not like the flavor. I do not drink coffee either, and I hate all artificial sweeteners because the aftertaste is terrible. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.